Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tablelands Regional Council Ordinary Meeting for July. Can I just remind everyone to turn their devices either on to silent mode or off? Do we have apologies? No apologies? Very good. Could I ask everyone to be upstanding, please? I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Also, while we're standing, can we observe a minute's silence as a mark of respect for the members of our community who have recently passed. We wish their family and friends peace and comfort during this challenging time. Thank you. Item 6. Do we have any declarations of material personal interests or conflicts of interest by councillors or officers? Tudor?
Mayor, I would like to declare a conflict with item 12.2 because I'm the applicant in that case, and I will be leaving the room due to deliberations on that.
Okay, thank you. You got that, Jackie? Any other declarations, councillors? No. All right, we'll go to item 7, confirmation of the minutes. So we've got 3 lots of minutes there to adopt today, councillors. The ordinary council meeting of the 22nd of June. Can I have a mover and seconder that those minutes be accepted? So Councillor Wilkes moving, and Councillor Hodge. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. We might go to matters arising on that one first to get it out of the way. So we've got one there, Councillor Hayden, regarding gravel resheet.
Thank you, you can give it to me to read. Thank you, I just made the report. Yes.
Just for the benefit of
Read the question and the response.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question was raised by Councillor Hayden regarding the 2020-2021 gravel resheet Northern Package contract in relation to the cost of soil testing that was carried out where there were road failures. And the response, this question was previously responded to in an email to all councillors on 28 June 2021. The resheet tenders do not specify that the testing conducted by contractors needs to be performed by an independent lab. The contractor using their own lab is perfectly fine. The tender specifications also include that the principal or the superintendent may carry out inspections of the site at any time. Council staff have decided to enact this condition to ensure we receive the quality product in accordance with the specifications. Technically, the testing conducted by the contractors should demonstrate this, but the specifications ask for one test per 500 metres and the location of the test site can be determined by the contractor. Council undertook spot checks across all three 2020 resheet contracts as part of Council's quality assurance activities. Please note that no correspondence has been located that indicates that the retesting was done where there were road failures. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, Councillor Hodge, I might read that one out if that's okay, Councillor Hodge. Councillor Hodge requested an explanation to the calculation of the valuation to place design for the change in direction of Railway Lane. The response is the variation fee included revised engineering traffic modelling and reporting by SKF, changes to development application and planning consultation by Real Planning, amendments to preliminary civil design plans and cost estimates by SKF, amendments to the preliminary landscape design plans and cost estimates by PDG, amendments to irrigation design and plans by Aquatech.
Yes, I'm happy with the explanation.
Okay, thank you. All right, and the next one from Councillor Clifton, I'll read that one. Councillor Clifton asked, what was the reason for contracting these works out and why no local supplier was available? And this related to JCG Logistics Proprietary Limited. Suppliers were unsuccessfully requested from the occasional plant hire register. Following that, quotes were requested from two local providers, including JCG, and with JCG providing the most cost-effective offer. JCG have recently acquired a premises in Ravenshoe in March, for which they have provided documentation which satisfies the local supplier criteria. The decision to contract this out was made due to the staff shortages at the time and the need to undertake these works to manage vegetation within the road corridor. The task is very important to manage vegetation where mechanical maintenance cannot get to and to improve road safety. It was emailed on the 26th of June, Manager Roads and Projects. The final one, Councillor Clifton raised the question why we were contracting these works out and why external tippers from outside the area were used. So this is in relation to Addison Australia Limited, trading at 1300 Meteor Rentals. And the response was tipper hire for 3-tonne dual cab dry hire being used as a ganger truck for the drainage and shoulder crew completing works in front of the Northern Maintenance grading crew. There is no dry hire available for 3-tonne tipper truck in the occasional plant hire register, and quotes were sought from Coates and Meteor from Logistics Fleet. And that was emailed on the 26th of June from the Manager of Roads and Projects. Are you satisfied with?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm satisfied with that part of the explanation.
Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions from the floor about the minutes of the previous OCM? Okay, thank you. We'll go to the special budget meeting of the 29th of June. Can I have a move that those minutes be accepted? Councillor Hodge is moving and Councillor Cardew is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Any questions arising from those minutes? Okay, we'll go to the final minutes. the Planning Committee meeting of the 13th of July. Can I have a mover for those minutes? Councillor Wilkes is moving, and Councillor Cardew, was that you? Councillor Cardew seconded. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes? Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, we'll now move to item 9, our deputations. So today I'd like to invite Heidi Richards and Robert Bruce from Mount Garnet. If you'd just like to come forward there, I think Heidi and Rob are going to stand up.
I'll take a seat.
Oh, you'll take a seat? So yeah, and we'll all see that we've had some information passed around to each councillor as well. Yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. Thank you for inviting us to speak on behalf of Mount Garnet community by giving us the opportunity to discuss the closure of Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station. We'd like the attendees of meeting to refer back to Tableland Regional Council agenda ordinary meeting dated Thursday, 25th of May, 2023. Subject point 12.5 Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station closure. We'd like to thank the councillors who have supported the motion to reopen our waste transfer station. Councillor Hayden, Bidney and Clifton.
There is overwhelming support provided by the community. We have submitted a petition to council with 181 signatures. At least 201 people have sent letters to the council concerning the waste transfer station closure, asking for a consultation meeting for the council to address our concerns, as there has been no public consultation general meeting regarding this subject matter. Thank you, Mayor Marty, for replying to our letter on the 6th of July 2023, for acknowledging the receipts of the correspondence. The council has received our petition on Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station, which will be tabled in today's council ordinary meeting.
In our letter to council, we raised concerns for not having a waste transfer station, which means that outside the population within the Surbiton main town, 274 people, there are many people on the outskirts of town. In 2021 census, Mount Garnet has 532 people. Since this census, we have moderate growth in the town that relies on the services of our town. Subsequently, these people will need to transport their waste further, could be excess of 40 kilometres to the Inner Hot Springs waste transfer station. We have tourists that are currently visiting our town, staying at accommodations, caravan park, motel. We have excess waste during these times.
Current waste collection trucks do not collect waste from all service dwellings. The truck runs to the end of Namble Road at the bridge overflow, Kulgara Road at Dunmore Road just over the grid. No bins are picked up past the truck pad. From an occupational health, environmental and security perspective, there are a number of issues that need to be articulated.
The overall environmental impact on the culture, mental and physical health of the community, including the morale within the community. Regarding the substantial elderly population, these residents are restricted license are bound within the town, so there have been no access for them to remove their waste to Inner Hot Springs. The likelihood of property owners burying waste or rubbish on their properties is high. Illegal dumping of waste has occurred, which is also prohibited by security management of local properties. Biosecurity garden waste being dumped is not just a health hazard, but also a fire risk to the whole town as a whole.
We would like the table to refer to page 204 of the council meeting agenda, attachment 1, paragraphs 1 and 2, inspection report, Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station structural assessment letter. It appears that the retaining structure has not been constructed as per GDH designs drawings dated the 19th of September 2004. As a result, the wall is considered to be in failure mode. In the executive summary of the agenda, it states that the Inner Hot Springs, Mount Garnet, Millamilla waste transfer stations are identified as having a low level of utilisation by customers and therefore high operation costs per customer. We asked Council why Mount Garnet transfer station was closed and not the other two locations. Page 247 of the report, quoting the report recommendations. There is little throughput of the facility. Therefore, it is recommended a skip bin be positioned on the site to cater for the current need and abandon the use of the existing concrete retaining wall structure and restrict access to with fencing until the risk has been mitigated. Given the roof and superstructure are still in good condition, it is recommended that it be reused where possible.
Inner Hot Springs Waste Transfer Station has a new weighbridge from 2022 to 2023 at the cost of $70,000. Watsonville and Urban Bank residents are using our TRC waste facilities in Herberton and Atherton for no charge, yet this penalises the TRC residents by weight of exorbitant cost. We recognise the existing structure is in fail mode. We'd like to propose an alternative option which is likely to be cheaper for TRC in the long run.
We received on the 23rd of June 2023 a letter from Bruce Garnier of Management Waste and Water. He states in his letter, with regards to our suggestion the council operate the Mount Garnet site by using a removable skip bin. With a barricade around the structure, the transfer station previously operated in this manner with a removable skip bin, which was transported to Inner Hot Springs landfill. Locating skip bins at ground level presents a safety hazard, with customers being required to lift material up and over the sides of the bin for disposal. Placing a barricade around the bin also presents a problem. Gaining access to the bin is not good operational practice. We feel from this response that he may have misinterpreted what we were suggesting as an alternative option. Placing a safety barricade around the damaged structure would eliminate safety hazards to the public and TRC staff. A commercial skip bin with a drop-down door, customers would not have to lift material up and over the sides of the bin for disposal, which was a concern Mr. Gardner stated in his letter.
JJ Richards will be taking over the operations of Waste Transfer Station. Running costs will be cheaper once this commences. Council Waste Transfer Station employees seemed that they did not like working at our Waste Transfer Station facility. We offered the council considers employing a local from Mount Garnet to work at the facility. We have had a few locals that have shown interest in this position. Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station could have alternative opening times to Inner Hot Springs, providing better services for both towns.
We have viewed a waste transfer station that is working effectively and efficiently, that our waste transfer station could simulate. Please refer to the handouts with photos. These photos are from Mount Carbine Waste Transfer Station. The photos demonstrate the layout of the waste transfer station mentioned. There is an employee's work shelter at the front gate. The employees have clear view to direct people to the appropriate areas to dump waste, not leaving the side of the employee's field of vision. Assisting the employee's ability to observe public occupational health and safety standards are maintained, limiting the probability of any mishaps. The facility is fully fenced for security. They provide commercial skip bins for waste. There are two options tabled on the 25th of May Council Ordinary Meeting. 1. Permanent closure of the Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station, estimated cost of $75,000. Repair structure and reopen Mount Garnet Waste Transfer Station is an estimated cost of $107,000. We ask Council to reconsider motion 2 or our proposed alternative to remove for removable commercial bins. In closing, there is overwhelming support provided by at least 182 people for effective access to waste transfer station. In response to this, the alternative option is being put forward, and that it is to investigate the way in which the transfer station at Mount Carbine operates, to explore how we can best use and maximise access to the facility by everyone in the community. This transfer station currently uses removable bins that are picked up on a regular basis and appears to be operating effectively. We strongly invite Council to take the measures necessary to investigate this as a very viable and cost-reducing option.
Thank you for your time and inviting us to express our concerns about Mount Garnet Transfer Station. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Any questions? Councillor
Yeah,
Hodge?
just one, look, thanks very much for your presentation, and look, and I understand all your concerns, and you've nearly all my laptop out with all your emails that have been coming through. That's fine. But look, today, if we wanted to rescind that motion, we can't do that today. Okay. Each council, whoever wants to, someone want to move that, they'd have to give all the councils at least 5 clear days.
I understand it.
So what all I'll say on as far as I'm concerned, I will look at that for you, and we'll come back with something, I hope, maybe at the next ACM, but there's a bit of work to do.
Thank you
So
very much.
I can't promise anything, but we'll talk to my colleagues to see how we can get a facility for you at Mount Garland.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, everybody.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it a lot.
Thanks very much. And we'll go ahead and receive the petition, formally receive the petition now as well.
Feel free to contact either of us at any time.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you very
very much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Hogan, would you like
So I move that council receive the petition from the Mount Garnet community about the waste transfer station.
So we've got a mover to receive the petition and councillor Clifton is seconding. Those in favour?
Are you happy with those words up there, Councillor Hayden?
I just changed it. I didn't read it. I'm going to-
Yeah. That's good. We're receiving the petition. Yeah, absolutely. That's fine. Yep. Very good. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll go to item 11.1. The FNQ Rock Development Manual. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge is moving. Seconder? Councillor Wilts? Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to move this. We've workshopped this the other day with our officers, so it's very technical, of course, and so I won't go down that path, but happy to support it. It as we said in the workshop, it gives advice for our officers to work on. It is not the Bible, but it's almost the Bible. So happy to move it.
Thanks. Councillor Clifton?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I follow along with Councillor Hodge. When we had our workshop the other day and the Darlene Irvine from FNQ Rock was there to present, she made the point that it was a guide. The FNQ Rock Development Manual was a guide, not a Bible. And I think there's quite a difference between the guide approach and the Bible approach. And I personally support the motion, but I support it in the context of it being a guide and not a Bible. If the councillors understand what I'm talking about.
Thanks, Councillor Clifton. Councillor Carchi?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just on those comments there, if I could ask Sean to give an explanation, if he would, how that would be implemented, keeping in mind that it's a guide as opposed to law. How would that be transferred into practice?
Yes, through the chair, councillors. So yes, the development manual forms part of our planning scheme, which allows us to therefore conditions development respectively. The development menu provides standard drawings, but I acknowledge there is a degree of flexibility. One size doesn't fit all. So there is flexibility through the development assessment process, particularly when we get to operational works where the development menu really comes to the fore. So yes, it is subjective. The standards aren't meant to be applied. Well, they can be applied, but there is some flexibility through their implementation, particularly when we're out on site talking to people undertaking works where, like I said, one size may fit all. So there is some flexibility built into the process, and it's our implementation of that. So there is authority with our delegated officers to approve deviations from the standards, but ultimately, if they're aligned and consistent with the intent of the standards, then we're acceptable to that. So, yeah.
So in other words, if a developer or contractor had an alternative solution to and wanted to put that forward, that would readily be viewed and
Yeah, all we'd ask with respect to that, councillor, is that it's had a degree of a suitably qualified person who's looked at that and certifies that if it's an engineering matter. So yes.
Thanks, Sean.
Very good. Any more questions on this one, councillors? Those in favour? Carried, thank you. 11.2, Economic Development Strategy 2023 to 2026. I have a mover of the officer's recommendation. Councillor Clifton and Councillor Hodge. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. If I might ask Angelo to give us a rundown on his strategy.
Yep, through the chair, of course, councillors. So I guess the concept of a plan on a page is it for it to be easily digestible by the community. In developing the strategy, I took into context our community plan and corporate plan, as well as some of the attributes that sets this region apart from others, and there are a few attributes that do that. A focus on strategic industries, again considering our corporate and community plan, as well as a range of data sets, location quotient that looks at industry specialisations. There are a few there, but they all relate to where council's focusing its efforts at the moment. And in terms of priorities, leadership and advocacy is very important moving forward. Taking a leadership role, not only council, but also the community as well, and working with some of the community groups. That happens on a regular basis as well. So just empowering the community to take a lead role. As I've become more familiar with the region, each individual town has its own strengths, and making sure that people, place and community are front and centre of economic development. Economic and community development need to go hand in hand. Industry and small business development, obviously focusing through the Agricultural Advisory Committee. Ag is our largest industry by employment, and by value add, it's about 20% of our economy and growing. So just maintaining that focus. Active engagement with industry and business as well, making sure we're out there regularly talking, and that's just not at an officer level, but at a councillor level as well. Investment attraction, I heard on the radio this morning that the Tablelands has one of the tightest rental vacancy rates still in the state at 0.4%. So we have 3 policies now, and through our policies trying to attract investment and medium density housing in our strategic industries, and underpinning all of the region is obviously the environment which we live in, our natural assets, and making sure sustainability and natural asset is front and centre, not only for industry but also for council. And all of this is obviously in the context that we have one dedicated resource, but economic development is throughout council. Every department in council has a role in economic development, and I work closely with the community team. We have a community engagement officer who works with our chambers of commerce. So as I said, economic development just doesn't sit within my portfolio, but across council. In terms of achieving our priorities and supporting strategic industries, we have a lot of enablers, and that's how we're going to achieve it. And obviously reporting back to council on a yearly basis on our economic growth. More recently, that growth's been fueled by construction and agriculture. And again, some of the policies we've got in place looks to enhance that growth and continue that growth. And I guess my last point and my main point is this document is a live document. So when we work with industry, business and the community, it's an evolving document, and that's going to be important because things change rapidly, and for council to be agile and to be able to respond to those changes and challenges is going to be important, given where we are, particularly at a macro level and all the economic factors that are affecting us. So a bit of a summary.
Okay. Very good. Good job. Thank you. Councillors, any more questions on this one? Councillor Cardew?
No, I haven't got a question, but I'd just like to congratulate Angelo I'm putting a strategy together that fits on one page.
It wasn't easy.
I think that's fantastic, and, you know, like, it is a pretty substantial sort of a strategy, and to fit it on one page, well done, and I think there's a lesson to be learnt there for others to follow in our organisation.
Yeah.
Very well done, thank you.
I would like to give some of that credit to our CEO. I did have a more detailed strategy, but obviously my direction was to put it on a page, and it is becoming more of a norm these days, just so community can easily see. And as I said, if there are any changes, we can adapt as needed.
I congratulate you all involved, thank you.
You seemed much happier about it today than when he left my office.
Well, if I
You could use the back page.
Oh, I know.
may make a final comment, Mr. Mayor and Councillor. I really welcome Angelo's enthusiasm for the job, and it's not about enthusiasm makes such a difference, and this economic strategy is an example of how you've got to carry these things forward with enthusiasm, and I applaud you for that. Thank you, Councillor.
Very good. Final call, councillors, on this one. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 11.3, LGAQ Annual Conference. Now, we've got some yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, this addresses attendance and also some 8 items that we'd like to put forward as motions to the conference. If we could just firstly, I suppose, sort out the attendance. I think some people's availability may have changed since the initial indications were made at the workshop, considering the motions.
Yeah, well, and I've confirmed that I'll be attending as well now. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I won't be able to go now, circumstances.
So who's actually attending?
I'm not.
So Councillor Bilney, Councillor Clifton.
And you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's right.
And myself. Yep.
So if we could just amend the recommendation to be one other councillor, other than 2 other councillors.
Yeah, well, if we can put that amendment in, and we also need a second voting councillor.
Mr. CEO, you go.
Yes.
Sorry, it was, the voting people are,
The mayor's attending soon. The mayor will be
And what was
a
the
voting
second
delegate,
one?
and then it's a matter for the councillors to decide who they wish to exercise the other day.
So Councillor Clifton and Councillor Bilney.
We do just need to nominate 2 people, because that's what the rules of the association require, that the delegates are nominated. How it operates in practice on the day is another matter.
Do you want to do Councillor Bilney?
Councillor Hodges, I'm nominating Councillor Bilney.
And I'll second that too.
And Councillor Clifton, thank you, who's seconding that.
Thanks, Councillor. Clifton. The delegate. Sorry, the observer.
The observer, yeah. So that means Councillor Bilney, there's no early mark, you've got to stay right to the end. With you, all the voting, I'll be there with you, unfortunately. But,
Councillor Clifton, I'll wait for you to see.
Councillor Bilney's got to speak to every motion.
all right, so we've got those amendments in the proposed motion there. And we'll vote on the motions for LGAQ. We'll just vote once on everything, Gary. CEO, is that right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's fine for these purposes.
Yeah. So councillors, we're gonna have one vote. We haven't got a mover and seconder yet. So can I have a mover and seconder of the amended motion and all the motions for LGAQ? So Councillor Wilts is moving. Councillor Hodge, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Councillor Wilts is moving. Councillor Hodge is seconding with what's up on the screen.
we'll need to note that the CEO is going as well, or that's just an admin thing.
So those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Could just speak briefly to each of the motions, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
and then take questions if that's all right.
Yep.
The
Yeah,
first
that'd be
motion-
good. Thank you.
As everyone's aware, council's general purpose grants declining under the new methodology. I'm not saying that the methodology is incorrect, but, and the Grants Commission has published a report in relation to the methodology, but I don't think the publication goes far enough to disclose the level of detail that we'd like to see to inform council and the community of the reasons why the grant goes down, and also more importantly for us to understand how it might trend in the future. So if we don't have enough detail, we can't make those estimates. It's an ongoing issue here through the Agricultural Committee, and since I've been here, that the attachment of water licences into the unimproved value of land causes concerns. Council's previously put that position forward through LGAQ, but it hasn't made it from our submission to LGAQ at the 2021 conference onto the current submission in relation to the Valuation of Land Act. So it's important that we raise that again and keep it in front of government, see what support we can generate for that, for a statewide approach. The motion 3 relates to a request from the Agricultural Advisory Committee and the Queensland Farmers Federation that the guideline in relation to equity and fairness in rating that it be made mandatory for council to consider that, or all councils to consider that when they're setting their rates in the dollar. We do certainly follow the guiding principles, and the guiding principles were discussed as part of the fixing of the rates this year. I'm not sure about the prospects of that, but anyway, that's what the request was through the Queensland Farmers Federation, the Agricultural Committee. So it's gone forward. We've established the Agricultural Advisory Committee, so I think it's important that initiatives that generate from there, or positions that generate through that forum, are taken up by council and carried forward where they're requested. The success or otherwise of that will be a matter for all of the delegates at the conference at the time. And also from that same forum, there's concerns around the frequency of valuation, and set that we ask for that to be every 3 years. I know there'll be some thoughts perhaps it could push out to 5, but I think that leads to quite significant changes. But at the moment, it's required to be done annually. Sometimes that occurs, sometimes that doesn't. So we've had it did a year, skipped a year, did a year. That sort of doesn't allow for trends, I guess, to settle down a little, particularly in agricultural land. I don't dispute that urban councils may need, places like Brisbane, Gold Coast may want to continue to do it annually, because valuations there move up and down, I guess, more frequently than they might in rural areas. So limiting the request for that change to be for rural councils. Yes, the next matter relates to training for prospective councillors, and that is a suggestion there that the little bit of training that's done now is not sufficient, and that needs to be broadened to include all aspects of governance and financial management in particular, and that candidates need to demonstrate that they've completed that training as part of the nomination process. Nabila said it's an issue in this region, it's an issue in Far North Queensland more generally, and the way it's spreading is going to be an issue across Queensland before too long. So the suggestion is that it should be a restricted invasive plant under the Biosecurity Act, and that there be funding for research into biological controls, and also more funding to control it, particularly on main roads where it's spreading or being spread by vegetation management practices, namely slashing. This is motion 7 is also important to us. We've found recently that our professional advice through our Executive Manager Economic Development is that the population projections that have been provided for the region don't appear to be accurate, and in that process we're not saying that they haven't engaged with us or provided explanations. We are saying that we don't feel that the explanations were quite sufficient. However, what has come to light is that there is no real mechanism for us to challenge those, formally challenge those population projections. They do play into general purpose grants when we're looking at implementing the economic development strategy that council's just endorsed. Some of the key input into that is the data that we have. A key part of that data is our population growth projection. So we want to attract investors. We need to be able to accurately forecast what our population looks like going forward. We're suggesting at the moment that the estimates are a little incorrect, and that our population projections should be higher than they are, but there is no actual formal mechanism in place in the legislation for us to challenge those projections. We'd like that changed. And the final one is quite a large challenge for all local governments, and I guess the larger community, the wider community going forward, and that's in relation to PFAS, but it particularly is of concern for councils who are passive receivers of PFAS into their sewage systems and potentially into their water supplies, and there's no actual mechanisms available to remove those substances, and any construction works and so forth are also affected by that. But our concern is in relation to our water and sewage infrastructure and potentially our waste transfer facilities as well, and we would like the process to begin as it has in the US, for example, that we are indemnified in relation to the impacts of PFAS, which is not the case at the moment. So an important matter going forward, and one that we would like Queensland-wide support for those changes to be made. So that's a fairly comprehensive set of submissions. I thank councillors for their input into getting those together, the Agricultural Advisory Committee as well, and my colleagues, particularly in relation to the PFAS matter.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Many people won't know what PFAS is, and how it just manifested itself in the wider community. My understanding was that it came about, it was a firefighting spray used by the Royal Australian Air Force, for which in places like Oakey and other places, and Amberley and places. So maybe if you could pick that up for a benefit of our community.
Are you a bit more across what PFAS looks like? I'm not 100% across where it generates, other than what it generated from, other than it is a substance that, but you're right, it is certainly firefighting substances are one. Maybe Jude, are you across exactly some of the sources of it?
It's one of those substances which is starting to be of concern. There has a lot been written about the health effects of PFAS. Unfortunately, PFAS, like DDT to a great extent, are classed as forever chemicals that tend to be in the environment for a very long time. In certain areas where we know, like you were giving the example with the firefighting foam, that a lot of it has been used, then those areas definitely are a very high risk. But we don't know for sure where these substances exist at this point in time in very low concentrations. There's no safe margin for humans, so we can't say that this is safe, this is unsafe. We would like not to see them at all. By the same token, there is not a method in place to remove these ones from the water, which means that potentially there is a liability issue for local government, which is rather unfair because there's nothing that we can do at this point in time.
So it's certainly used in firefighting. It's been around since about the 1930s and more prevalent since the 1960s, and also formed part of non-stick coatings and those sort of things. But if anyone in the community has an interest, it's go online, you can read about it. But for us, it's when we have to pick up the residual chemicals, it's a pretty principal concern.
Thanks very much. We'll go on to 11.4, councillors. Advanced cams. Do we have a mover of that report? Councillor Hodge. And a seconder, Councillor Filney. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation. It's one of those things that if you're not part of it, you don't know what's going on, and I think that it's very important that we're part of advanced camps. Because when they go out to governments and that for funding and all that sort of thing, we need to have our fingers in the pie as well. So I'm happy to support it.
Councillors, any more on this one? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 11.5, local government sustainability framework. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Clifton and Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It's a re-emphasis on the sustainability of councils, and I would like to ask the CEO to speak to how important this is from my perspective.
Thank you, Councillor Clifton. Extremely important. The new sustainability indicators are now in place, and obviously councils of our size will be, all councils will now be measured against those, and their performance against those sustainability indicators will be reviewed by audit on an annual basis, so compliance with them is extremely important. We've had 3 indicators previously. That's been expanded significantly. It doesn't make it easier, I don't think, for us to be viewed as sustainable, perhaps slightly more difficult, but it is the regime that's there. It's probably, talk about the philosophy around all that on another occasion, but for council to be able to comply with those is challenging, and certainly some work to be done in the years ahead, including the work that we're doing now in relation to service level reviews that fit into that. The type of assets that we're able to provide, and an increased emphasis on replacing assets rather than providing new assets is extremely important. If we're going to provide new assets, we need to be able to demonstrate that they're generating an economic return and making sure that they are contributing to us remaining stable. Remaining sustainable, not stable.
Very good, thank you. Final call, councillors. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 11.6, Fryers Creek Steering Committee, 3 July. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge is moving, and Councillor Wilkes is seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll take it as read. They're just the January action items from July, and the council will be getting an update after the meeting. So,
very good. Councillor Wilkes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair, just briefly, and my colleague mentioned it before about the enthusiasm of our officers, and I'd just like to reiterate that with this circumstance, the concept and the project itself is moving forward at a rapid rate thanks to that enthusiasm that has been displayed continually by our officers. So I thank them for that.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Okay, we'll go on to infrastructure and planning services. 12.1, permanent road closure application, Powley Road, Bareen. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Clifton. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, look, I support this. It's just making good use of land that's would otherwise have to be mowed and maintained by council. So, yeah, just tidying up a few anomalies in regards to the road reserve out in front of that property. So yeah, I think it's a good move, and it'll be helpful for council in the long run.
Very good, thanks, Councillor Cardew. Anyone else, councillors, on this one?
Just to reinforce that, I think our officers told us the other day that the school bus turning point is all fine, so all good.
Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 12.2. Thanks, Judith. Permanent road closure application, Cloutier Road, Carrington. Do I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew and Councillor Wilkes. Thank you. Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, it's very similar to the last one. Just a portion of the road that goes nowhere, and we have to maintain that. So letting the property owner take that responsibility for maintenance and the land, reduce our workload to some degree. So no, fully supported.
Thank you. Councillor Hodge.
It's just to reinforce through the officer's recommendation, there was no legal objections from Queensland Parks and Wildlife, or Telstra, Wollongong, or any of the adjoining landowners, so it's pretty well straightforward. So.
Councillors, any more on this one? Okay, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to 12.3, 12-month contract extension, W-106-5, compliance sampling, testing and reporting waste and sewerage treatment plant sites. Can I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge moving, Councillor Wilkes seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it's happy to support it. It's just taking up the option of the contract, so happy to support it.
Councillors, any more on this one? Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 13.1, Community and Corporate Services. So preliminary financial report, June 2023. Do I have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge moving. Councillor Clifton. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks very much. Just like to just go through that one. Okay, just like councillors go to page 200, and I won't make too many assumptions here. I'll go to the manager finance. But what I'd like to say is that I think in our original budget last year, 22-23, we started off with a roughly balanced budget. Then we had to amend it because of we lost 1.8 million from the Grants Commission, the way it was calculated, which put us in a $2 million deficit in the budget review. Happy to see the result of a $2 million surplus, which is a $4.3 million change. Now, you'll notice that there, up in the revenue, there's a really good increase in the interest from our investments, from the fees and charges, the rental income. But the big one, of course, is the 3.2 million from the grants. So I won't make any assumptions. I'll just go straight to you, Erica, to let us know what it is.
Thank you. So if I may, through the chair, firstly, I would like to note this is a preliminary report for the year end, so we are still processing financial year end activities, and the final result will be provided to council via the annual report in the coming months. So this is at a point in time, processing is still happening, but it is looking good so far. What we do have, and on the expenses component, you'll see we're travelling really, really close. So one of the items that did adjust throughout the year was our depreciation. So an item that you haven't yet mentioned, Councillor Hodge, depreciation had increased as a result of inflation that we're seeing in everything. Construction materials cost more than what they did. So we did see that come through as a result in our depreciation. Which was one of the reasons why we went from that close balance budget to a deficit position. Our expenses did still closely align to budget, but yes, our revenue has pushed us into a surplus position. The majority of that has come from the financial assistance grant. So every year, local governments are provided a financial assistance grant. We received 100% of the this financial year, the 23-24 financial year, paid into last financial year. We were expecting to have a portion of an early payment, so we're expecting about 2.8 million. Instead, we got 5.9. So what that means for this year, we hope maybe we get another 100% from the next year, but that's the main driver. Is the early payment financial assistance grant. 100% of what's allocated for the 23-24 year was paid into 22-23. So that's the main contributing factor for that position.
You think where I'm probably not quite sure, I guess, with the 23-24 budget, whether there's going to be any variances, it's hard to pick.
So depending, the financial assistance grant is a wild card in our budget. It's something that is provided. Last year we received 75% early payment. The year before we received 50% early payment. So we are making assumptions based that we've got a 100% allocation. I hope we get another 100% payment in advance, but we don't know until June. We were advised like the 28th of June that this was going to happen. So I hope we get, yeah.
From a budgeting perspective, Councillor Hodge, we will continue to treat what government did the year before as the basis on which we develop our budget, because that's as much certainty as we have. The LGAQ's advocacy position with the federal government is that they just get consistent. A greater percentage, obviously. Local government should be receiving a higher percentage. We get about, they did actually this year decrease again, the share of total Commonwealth revenue that local government received across Australia by about half of.
They said to expect 11%. It wasn't quite that though.
Yeah, that affects us, but in general across it. And the other thing is, be consistent. If you're going to give us 100% one year, make it 100%, leave it at that. Yeah. And let us do our modelling going forward, knowing what it is. It used to be 50%, well sorry, it used to be nothing. No early payment. You got it in the year in which you were entitled to it. Then it became 50%, jumped to 75, and now it's jumped to 100. So it's quite inconsistent and does make our operating surpluses and deficits float around, because it has to be treated as revenue when it's received. It's also somewhat comforting that when LGAQ visited their dialogues with Treasury and with Audit, that the 5-year rolling operating deficit is the one that received the strongest emphasis, which obviously important because it's a big chunk of money and it does make our, you see now we've gone from projecting a $2 million deficit to receiving now produce a surplus, and it's largely due to movements in the general purpose fund.
We'll take it while we've got it.
Absolutely.
Just the
Councillor Clifton, yep.
Yep. If I may, Mr. Mayor. Eric, I noticed in the area sales revenue, we've got a 22.65% improvement, or $728,000. I've sort of assumed that that's through one of our caravan parks starting to do very well, but can you explain what's included in those figures?
If I may, I'll take that one on notice and then give you the specific details for the breakdown of that. Just to
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillors, any more questions on the financial report for June 2023? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Aaron. (13.2) Community Grant Program July 2022 to June 2023. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Billney. Councillor Hayden seconded. Councillor Billney.
Yeah, through the chair. Once again, this is a fantastic use for community. Budget's been expended, from what I understand, a couple of months prior to the end of the financial year, becoming more and more popular. Last year we amended it so that PNCs could avail it as well. So I think it's really hitting the mark. Arguably, should be more. but that's not what we're here to discuss. I think it's a fantastic program and I support it fully.
Thanks, Councillor Billman. Councillors, Councillor Hodge.
Yes, great to see that our officers have used the budget, total budget. One good thing, but you left 5 cents there for us. Done that. That's a
Slight savings, yeah.
Councillor Clifton.
Not to do so much with the community grant program, just to move my name, but it's nice to see Ms McCarty back at the table.
Yes, thank you.
Very
Thank you,
nice to
Councillor.
see you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, final call. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. (13.3) Urban Mining Centre and is that mine site reports?
Yep.
So yeah, 13.3. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Hayden.
Okay, this is a very comprehensive written report with the help of the Herberton Mining Centre volunteers. The volunteers at the centre have done and continue to do a fantastic job in our community in the Tablelands region, and I welcome this report.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Councillors,
Okay.
anyone else like to talk to this one or ask questions? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. 13.4 Tourism and Culture Advisory Committee 2022 to 2023. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hayden. Seconded. Councillor Hodge. Councillor Hayden.
No, I think it's important with some of these committees, and I think they do their job that they're meant to do. So I think they're good for the community.
Very good, thanks, Councillor Hayden. Councillors, final call. Councillor Clifton.
Mr Mayor, just a comment on volunteerism. There must be many people involved in these committees and other advisory committees besides these ones. Probably hundreds of people who willingly volunteer their time in our community for little reward except the success they have in preserving our heritage as well as taking things forward. So I'd like to compliment the volunteers that underpin all of this advisory structure. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. Thank you. 13.5 Inclusion Advisory Committee Annual Report. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hodge moving and Councillor Wilkes seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Once again, happy to support the officer's recommendation. When this annual report went to the committee which I chair, they were very excited with it and happy with it, and they all endorsed it 100%. So, go on, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors? Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 13.6 Cycling Advisory Committee, May 2023. Do we have a mover? Councillor Bilney and Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair. This is an evolving strategy. Latest data shows that it's nearing completion. A few little things still to continue with and work out. Expect to have it in the coming months, and really keen to see the final document to be presented to council.
Very good, thank you. Councillors, any more on this one? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I'm just looking for the minutes.
You've got the strategy.
Through the chair, the minutes aren't attached. I'll distribute them.
Perhaps we just bring them to the,
And just leave it to that. This can wait till the next meeting, Mr. Mayor. If there's any questions in the meantime, feel free or me will be happy to answer them.
Through the chair, the basis of those minutes was basically presenting where they were at with that strategy.
right. So what's the plan for this one, Mr. CEO?
We can attach the minutes and represent the report for completeness, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, okay, so we can just defer this one today, is that
Yes,
what we're doing?
thank you. Yes.
Deferring this to the next meeting. So can we defer this one to our August?
Yep.
August
Yes, that's
meeting? Yep. So we've got Councillor Bilney seeking that a deferral. Councillor Wills, are you happy with that deferral of this item to the August OCN?
Yes, thanks, Mr.
Okay. Those in favour of that? Thank you. Carried. Item 13.7, easement over lot 248 on CP 895988. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hayden and Councillor Clifton. Councillor Hayden.
It's just finalising the easement for the Catholic Education Services that's been used for quite a while.
Very good. Councillors, any more on this one? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm just wondering why now? I mean, the sewage facility's been there for a long, long time. Why all of a sudden they need an easement?
If I can, through the chair, we've got officers away today, but I can answer that question. They're actually in the process of upgrading their sewage treatment plant, and they've had the EPA come in to do an assessment, and the recommendation from the EPA was that they get that easement formalised.
Thank you. Sounds reasonable. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried. (13.8) Request to purchase council land to priority. Mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew moving and Councillor Wilts seconding. Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Normally I'd probably support something like this to try and relinquish underutilised land in whatever area that we have land that's not used very much, but in this particular case, it's been identified by engineers that it's a potential site for sewage operations, and as we all know, we are starting to put some priority on sewer in the main CBD of Tiger, so we're going to need this parcel of land for that purpose, I suspect. In this particular case, I don't support it. I support the officer's recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Cardew. Councillor Wilts?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair, just very briefly, just echo the comments of the Deputy Mayor. It is an essential block of land to future infrastructure needs of council. The inquirer did show extreme interest in acquiring the land and contacted a lot of us individually, but he'll be somewhat disappointed, but I think this is the best way of going. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, those in favour of the officer's recommendation? Carried, thank you. 13.9, adoption of local lawmaking process. We have a mover of the officer's recommendation.
Can we just have a point of clarity, if you don't mind? This part is just a process of amending the new way of amending a local law. So, yeah, so I'm happy to move the process in this point. Yeah.
So Councillor Hodge is moving. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Bilney.
It's on the process.
Did you have any questions for Councillor Hodge? Councillor Bilney.
No.
Councillor Clifton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Sometimes I feel like a real idiot, and I may well be, but I really don't understand. This may be a perfectly reasonable, practical thing, but when I read, I just don't understand. The model lawmaking process stated in this resolution must be used to make a local law that is a model local law, including a model local law which contains anti-competitive provisions. Now, there's a whole series of interplays mixed up in that, and I don't feel confident that I understand what it's all about. So I don't want to vote against it. I really would like, I would have liked to have dealt with this through some kind of workshop process. I understand it's procedural, but I don't feel that I can, and no matter how much I read it, I still don't understand the legal background that it comes from to actually feel confident with it.
So can we go to either Shirley or the General Manager? Or?
So, as I said, so the officer that's prepared this report isn't here, and who obviously is the subject matter expert on this matter. But this is, I mean, I guess it's difficult for me to provide information about your lack of comfort, I guess, with that. I can say that that we have a requirement for council to adopt a process for making a local law before we can actually then go forward and make changes to our local laws. So council adopted a process, I think back in 2016. This is just refreshing that that adoption. So it is a procedural thing. It is one of those things that legislation requires us to undertake. So that's the reason for it. The separation, the specifics in the report separate out model local laws and other local laws, and that's the reason for the continual reference to model local laws, because in that section that you're referring to, because they're two separate items. If council are of the view that they would like to better understand the difference between, or better understand the legislation or background to why those differences exist, then certainly we could arrange a workshop on that. It's probably not something that we can address through question and answer.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. So, with taking that into consideration, what I'll do now, I will withdraw that moving this motion and let it lay on the table and we workshop this process. And when we come to the next one, probably the same thing, but I can only deal with this one. So I'll draw it and I'll ask that this be workshop. And we come back, the resolution come back after the further meeting, after this workshop. So I would withdraw it.
Okay, so that's being withdrawn by Councillor Hodge.
Through the chair, if I could just provide some context to that. So the intent of readopting the process for making the changes is so that we can then proceed to amend a local law that is currently seen as problematic, so that we can then start community consultation about that local law. So the consequence of not adopting this process and then adopting the amendment means that we are also then delaying that public consultation. I just wanted to flag that, so that it was understood.
Yeah, look, and is, given that we haven't got a mover and seconder, is it okay to keep talking about this, CEO?
Shouldn't really be discussing it unless we've opened the matter for discussion, which is perfectly competent.
Yeah, so can we have a mover to open this for discussion?
But if you just want to.
Councillor Cardew is moving to open it to discussion.
No, I just want to, I'd like to move a motion that we defer this to the next meeting.
Okay, we've got a councillor Cardew moving that we defer this to the next council meeting. Councillor Clifton is seconding that. Councillor Cardew, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, the reason I've asked for a deferral is that the next item following this, I'm also going to be asking for a deferral for this meeting. I just think that, listening to the comments and having spoken to most of the councillors about the next item as well, we just don't have a full understanding of this, and I don't think it reflects the views and the comments that we received from the community. So I really think that we need to workshop this together with councillors and officers. This is something, we've got to get this right. We can't afford not to get this right, especially in the next agenda item. So putting it back another month, we've been waiting a long time for it now, another month's not going to hurt. In order for us to be able to get it right.
Thanks, Councillor Cardew. Look, I'll come to you, Councillor Hayden. I've got a different view on this. I mean, I think this, as the General Manager said, this is really about the process, and I think there's more input councillors can have on 13.10 rather than 13.9. 13.9 is the framework that underpins everything. It's 13.10 where councillors can have more meaningful input about how these local laws hit the ground. That's where our input comes in. 13.9 is really the process that council's obliged to follow when we set up local laws. That's my understanding. So
Completely correct. It is. I appreciate that it's wordy and a little hard to follow, but it does follow them. It's the procedures that we're required to follow to make a local law, being a model local law, or if it's not a model local law, the other local law, two different types of local laws that you can make, and then how to make a subordinate local law, which deals with some of the details that are in the local laws, be they model local laws or other local laws. I know it sounds really complex. I don't dispute that it seems complex, but it is. You can't make laws without having a fairly complicated process that underpins it. I know it does seem long and wordy. I accept that, but as the General Manager said, we can workshop it. We don't have a difficulty doing that, but you will delay consideration of getting on with dealing with the animal local law that we wish to deal with.
We'll go to Councillor Hayden first and then Councillor Clifton.
So I'm probably a bit like Rod. I would think that we still need to do this before we can even look at the local laws, tune in and change them. It's just the process. This is just the process to go through it without changing any laws. So to me, I don't find that moving the process will make anything different to 13.10. But please correct me if I'm incorrect. I've read this as this is what we have to do no matter what. We're going to have to do it again next month, exactly the same what's written here, really. It's not going to change the wording.
Councillor Clifton.
Well, thanks, Mr. Mayor. My point was that although we can't talk about what our outcome might be on the next motion, but if the next motion was deferred, then we lose or gain nothing by not deferring this one. We consider both the issues together. We wouldn't have lost any time. but I can't talk about what the outcome of the next motion by will be, but do councillors understand my point?
Councillor Hodge?
Yeah, look, I agree. If we, most likely, we'll defer the next one, next motion, or the next 13.10. So let's workshop both of them together, get the full understanding of it, because, I mean, we could pass this now, but we're not going to do the next one, so just, I'm going to vote to defer it and defer the next one, so.
Councillors, any more discussion on this one? So we've got Councillor Cardew, seconded Councillor Clifton to defer 13.9 to the next OCM. Those in favour? That's carried. We'll go to 13.10, amending local law number 1. Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Mayor, I'd like to move a motion that this item also be referred to the August AGM in order to give us councillors and officers time to workshop it before the next meeting.
Councillor, do we have a seconder for Councillor Cardew's deferral? Councillor Hodge, seconding that. Councillor Cardew.
And I think, I just think this report as it stands, or the amendments as proposed, don't adequately address all the concerns and complaints that we've had over the last probably, I don't know, 12 to 18 months with regards to some of the real red areas in our area. So I think it falls short of addressing those things adequately. So I really think this is the one that we've got to get right. This is the one that causes us the most grief with our officers and dogs and animals and things on property, being a nuisance to neighbouring property. So we've got to get it right before we put out property consultation, or get it best right as we can. So I think we really need to go through this with a fine-tooth comb before we jump in and adopt it.
Just as a matter of process, Mr. Mayor, having not adopted the local law making process, you can't really proceed with this item regardless. So it does, now has to be deferred as a consequence of the previous decision.
All right. Just for that clarification, thank you. So those in favour of deferring item 13.10? Gary, thank you. Councillors, we might take a short break. Can we just make it maybe 10 minutes? Get a tea or coffee or bathroom stop. We're up to notice of motions 14.1, Councillor Dave Bilney, Malanda RSL sub-branch. Councillor Bilney, would you like to move that motion? Yes. So Councillor Bilney's moving that motion. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Clifton? Councillor Bilney.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, you know, the report that I authored, I think, is fairly self-explanatory. It's in two parts. The first one is to provide licensed tenure to the Malanda RSL sub-branch. By way of history, they currently operate out of a former community hall, which was sold to private commercial enterprise. They do have memorabilia in that top rail, it's called. They are concerned about the security, ongoing security of that memorabilia. They also use that club formerly as a welfare office, not considered to be probably the appropriate place to be talking specifics about welfare in that environment. The RSL sub-branch approached me some 18 months ago and made application for tenure. Unfortunately, this particular building was caught up in the list of 17 assets for consideration for disposal. I've done a bit of digging in relation to this particular building. It may not be as simple as gifting to the club. There's zoning issues. Ultimately, officers can investigate relinquishing council's trusteeship over that part of the land and look at transferring it to the Malanda RSL sub-branch as the trustee. But ultimately, that is the decision for the Department of Resources whether they would be suitable trustees, and also they also need to consider whether the proposed usage as a war museum, call it, is appropriate. So there's a few moving parts in this particular request, but the first one is to give tenure to the RSL sub-branch. It's been vacant for over 15 months or thereabouts. There's a perfect use for it. I'm told years ago it used to be an RSL sub-branch office as time went by. So yeah, I would like to see it being fully utilised by the sub-branch.
Thanks, Councillor Belding. Do we have any more, Councillor Clifton?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I really commend this councillors for this step. Coming at the RSL from a different angle, being a member of the RSL, not Malanda, and knowing the way RSL sub-branches wax and wane because of the membership that they have from time to time. I know that Malanda over the years has recently, until very recently, was struggling a little bit, and the loss of premises didn't help them at all. They've now got a really invigorated leadership team, and to give them the opportunity to sort of further their the ability to give them this building will bring the RSL back to its rightful place in the Malanda community, and I really applaud it very much as a very low cost, great assistance to a genuine community group.
Thanks very much, councillors. Councillor Kaji.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I also commend Councillor Belding and reiterate what Councillor Clifton said. I think it's this motion will go a long way to improving the RSL relations in Malanda. Like Dave said, it used to be an RSL, and the RSL prior to them was the top rail, which is right directly behind this location. And the other good thing from my point of view is that if we can relinquish the trusteeship to the RSL, it gives them some certainty and also takes it off our books. I think it's a win-win all the way around. So I really applaud this initiative.
Very good. Final call, councillors.
Being said.
Yep. Those in favour of Councillor Belding's recommendation? Very good. Carried. Item 14.2, notice of motion, Councillor Peter Hodge, Priors Creek Steering Committee. Councillor Hodge is moving that motion that's up on the screen there. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Clifton. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. As everyone's aware, at the last ACM, I did prepared to move a motion to dissolve the steering committee, but withdraw it. Now, talking to since then to most of the councillors, I think they really wish to be on it. Now, the main reason is this is the biggest project that we'll do over the next years to come. You know, it's a $20 million project. It's really great for Atherton and the rest of the region, TRC. But most importantly, it's about being part of the full discussion on how the project works and all the moving parts. Yes, sure. We bring the, an update to the council and they just pass it, but they're not, all the councillors are not privy to the full discussion on how things, the moving parts work, whether it's the concepts, whether it's the funding, how the funding works, where the funding comes from. And so that everyone can be, it's all above board. And so I decided to naturally keep the steering committee because it does work well. It does work well. But what this motion does, if any councillor can come, have their, put their point of view in if they wish, and be fully informed on the whole project. So I'm happy to move the resolution.
Councillors? Yeah, councillors, look, I'll speak to this one. Look, this concerns me a lot. We're a council that keeps talking about how we want to perform at a higher level, and this project, as Councillor Hodge says, is a very significant project. It's the biggest project this council's ever done, and he's absolutely right. And I'd like to make the point that everything that we're doing is above board. There's nothing that's not above board. We have an absolutely fantastic team in place. There are already 3 councillors on the steering committee, myself, Councillor Wills, and Councillor Hodge, of course. So we've got a perfectly sound, well-functioning governance model that's in place. All the decisions that need to come to council. We're not making decisions that the council should rightly be making. We're there to give support to the project team, which, as I said, is a first-class project team, and the idea that we're going to manage it by the entire council goes against the grain. When we've got a good governance structure set up, we're doing exceptionally well for a complicated project. For me, I can't see. For me, you haven't established what the problem is. If the steering committee was falling over or incompetent, I get it. The steering committee is not. The steering committee is performing at a very high level. The CEO is on the steering committee as well. So it's a high functioning project, and the fact that the suggestion that we have every councillor around the table, because it's not above board, doesn't really cut it. We're not. Yeah, we're not. That's not providing leadership. That's not providing leadership at all. It's going the other way. That's my view. Councillors, anyone else like to comment on this one? Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Look, I don't think, I've heard what you said, Mayor, and I don't think that the intention of this has been reflected very well. I think the intention of having the ability for all councillors to attend the meeting and participate in the meeting is a good thing. I think that, I think it's a good thing if they choose to attend. I mean, I'm going to raise a matter in business without motion that's similar along these lines with committees and advisory committees and the like. So I don't see the problem of all councillors being there if they wish to and being able to take part in the discussion if they wish to. It's not a decision-making process at all. It's just there to try and have input, because at the end of the day, any actions that come out of this committee have to come to council for discussion anyway. So, why not try and assist that process by having a majority of councillors there that can put their views forward and try and make the decision-making process easier and smoother. I just think that more people around the table discussing these things, especially in the magnitude of this project, can only help the situation. I don't see it as being a negative at all. Anyway, thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Wills?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair, I totally understand what the intent is here. However, I'm not aware of anything that prevents any councillor from coming along to the meetings. And yes, it's a huge project. I have total confidence in our steering committee as it is. Agree with what Councillor Cardew has said, that should members wish to attend, if we make it that basically it's all of council, we're going to be shy on numbers anyway for a myriad of reasons. So I just, like, it is up to individual councillors to attend if they so desire, and there are, you know, protocols in place for them to say their piece at meetings. Yeah, and just to reiterate, there is nothing untoward, underhanded, or below the table that happens in the meetings. So I totally understand the intent, but I think it should just be up to individual members. If they wish to attend, they can.
As observers.
Sorry?
As observers.
As observers, and there's protocols if they wish to give their opinions or wish to comment or ask questions.
This is what I was going to bring forward in the next item. I believe that as councillors, if councillors wish to attend any of the advisory committee meetings or what have you, as a councillor, you should have the right to be able to participate in the discussion at those meetings, as opposed to being an observer, and that's where the difference is. I'm not sure what the standing orders, our standing orders are, and this is what I was going to discuss on the next item, but I might as well talk about it now. Councillors can attend, yes, they can attend as observers, but can't speak unless asked, and that, in my view, is wrong. I think that as a councillor, you have the ability, or should be able to have the ability to participate in the discussion, into meaningful discussion, in accordance with the terms of reference of the committee. And it's chaired by a chairperson. They have control of that meeting, the same as any other meeting. So I think that it's a good thing if councillors show interest and want to go to these advisory committee meetings, and they should be able to participate in the discussion, as opposed to being an observer.
Well, look, I've got a problem, Kev. I mean, the whole, you know, when we set up these committees, we actually vote who actually goes onto the committee. So councillors are actually voted, their councillors are nominated and voted on by the council to go on the committee. So what you're suggesting now is that supersedes the whole process, Kev, because you know, the whole governance model is determined by those councillors that are elected to the committee that go on and then play their role as councillors. If we follow what you're saying, it's just a free-for-all. You know, we might get 6 councillors turn up one week and then one turns up next week or the next month, and you know, where's the rigour? There is no sound governance in that model.
Can I just make
There
a
is
point
no
of order?
sound governance.
Can I make a point of order if you don't mind, Mr Mayor? We're really getting off the subject here. You're starting to talk about advisory committees. This is a steering committee, right? So I'd like if we could stick to the point. Yeah. Sort of come to this, and I'll wait for if you want, but that's all I want to say. But I'll have my right to reply when you're finished. But can we just stick to this?
This is a perfectly sound steering committee that's functioning at a high level. I still can't see the reason, and Councillor Hodge, you're on the committee.
Yeah, sure.
I still can't see the reason why this high functioning committee.
Well, that's what I'll do in my right of reply. I'll tell you what.
And anyone else before we go back to Councillor Hodge? Councillor Clifton?
Yeah. I believe in being cooperative, and I believe in being collegiate, and I've used those terms both writing and elsewhere. I personally can't see why a board, sometimes we're likened to being a board, why a board or the council, the same thing, oughtn't to be able to, a councillor oughtn't to be able to attend and make input. Now, if that person, we're not elected to be irresponsible, we're elected to be responsible. And if we attend a meeting to deal with a particular matter, of course we will all be expected to be responsible and not try and delay the proceedings, or not try and negotiate ridiculous outcomes, or not trying to be silly. But I take Councillor Cardew's view. What could be the harm in having councillors exercise a valid view at the time? I think perhaps, and I haven't got an alternative, I think perhaps the Councillor Hodges' wording doesn't reflect the completeness of the intent that he's trying to get across. But I don't think that excluding us on the basis that you're assuming you're not doing the right thing, well, of course nobody's assuming that at all. I think it's better for us if we talk amongst ourselves in that formal framework. I certainly won't go to a steering committee if we and seek to agitate. I don't know what other councillors would do, but I do feel a little bit notionally offended that people would think that councillors, the presence of councillors would be seen as a detriment rather than a compliment. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Well, it's just Councillor Hodge said that it's all above board, so it suggests that it's not all above board.
I'll come to that.
Yeah. So look, anyone else like to talk before we go back to Councillor Hodge, the final wrap? Councillor
Yeah,
Dudley.
thanks, Mayor. Look, maybe Council, I would like to consider adding a couple of extra words to the end of the motion. Say, include the whole of council if they choose to attend.
Councillor Hayden.
Oh, I know it's probably a bit more high level, but we go to the FNQ Rock meeting and any councillor can attend as an observer, but we never ask them to have a say unless they're actually asked. So I would think this is probably on the same basis, but it's pre-worked on what they want, their motions, they bring it back to the table to the FNQ Rocks or different organisations. So to me, if you had every councillor there, how many councillors would we have sitting around 50? I actually think that we are voted there and we have to do the good of what we think as a whole. So I don't know, I think you can have too many people sometimes in a steering committee and it just ends up a mudmire sometimes, but anyway, that's my opinion, my view, so.
Thanks. Anyone else before we go to Councillor Hodge? Councillor Hodge for the final wrap, huh?
Okay, finally, yeah, look, that word, you know, above board, there's never ever an intent about that. What this is about, look, I'm on the steering committee, okay, so I'm on there. What this is about is, in my opinion, is, as I said, this is the biggest project, right? And that we'll see for a long, long time, and it's a lot of money, $20 million. So, you know, it's up to you councillors if you want to vote for it. All I'm giving you the opportunity is to say, I think that you should be able to come because the way it's funded, going forward now gets a lot more involved, right? We've got the expressions of interest coming into the sale of the land. The original steering committee was to get the concept plan up and running, which that's all been done. And that's all embedded. now the nitty-gritty comes. It's very important that I believe that you're part of the discussion in regards to everything, all the expressions of interest, how it's funding over the next 2 terms, whatever. But if you don't, and basically, I mean, choose to attend. It's up to you if you want to. You don't even have to attend this meeting if you don't want to. But so basically, all that resolution is to give every councillor the opportunity to be part of the steering committee on the Priors Creek project. That's what it's all about. So you're fully informed. Like after this meeting, we're going to have an update from our officers, right? Well, you won't need that in the future because you'll be there. You'll know exactly what it is, fully informed, and that's what it's all about. So up to you, councillors. Fine, but no, I don't.
No, I don't think it needs to be that.
I don't think it needs to choose a few, but just leave it as it is, please. It just, what it means is the whole council is entitled to be on the steering committee and have input. Simple as that. So I'll now put the vote, please.
So those in favour of Councillor Hodges' recommendation?
Carried.
Business without notice.
I only saw those hands up, if it's 5-2. It would be good if, because I can't see everyone.
Oh, sorry.
So,
Business without notice. Councillor Cargy.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, this basically following on from the discussion that we just had. I'm of the view that, yes, we have elected councillors elected to attend each of these, either a steering committee or advisory committee or whatever committee you want to call it. We have those nominated people there, and it's been done through council to elect them to attend those meetings and have voting rights or what have you. All I'm suggesting is that if any other council at any time wants to attend these meetings, no matter what they are, that they have the right to participate in the discussion, as opposed to being an observer and only able to speak if asked. So I would probably like just to get the general feeling from the rest of the council on this matter, and if necessary, ask the CEO to take this on notice and perhaps bring a report back to a future meeting after he's had time to view and address our standing orders.
Happy to do that, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification. I don't think it's the case that observers have to be invited to speak, but meeting protocol dictates that if you are not a member of any group, that you do seek the leave of the chair to contribute. That it doesn't matter whether it's a meeting of the CWA or a meeting of the council or anyone else. If you want to contribute and you are not a member, meeting practice, if you like, established meeting practice would dictate that you just put your hand up and say, may I speak to that item, if you're not a member. But our standing orders don't apply to advisory committees at this time, and they don't apply necessarily to steering committees. Those groups form their own rules, and those rules can control those matters, Council. But happy to provide a report around that.
Councillor Wilkes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair. Look, I've attended numerous meetings that I'm not part of the committee, whether it be steering committee or advisory committee. One's the Ag committee, where I've had the opportunity for input, going through Dave as the chair. I don't see that there's an issue, and I mentioned in the previous matter that there are meeting protocols that do afford the opportunity for comment to be made by members that councillors that may not be members of that committee. So I'm more than comfortable with the way things stand at the moment. I don't see the need for it. Like I've been welcomed at other committees and, yeah, I think the meeting protocols are such that any councillor is welcomed at any other committee meeting. Yes, I'm happy with the way things are.
Mate, just like a comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure that the majority of advisory committees, if a councillor turned up and who was not formally a member of the committee and wanted to speak, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, the councillor would be given permission by the chair. But there is always the exception that you need to be thinking about, and when we think about insurance and we think about workplace health and safety and think about a whole lot of other things, what we're really talking about is the ability of the chair to bar a councillor from having a legitimate word. Are we not doing that? We don't want that situation to occur. So, and there may have been some instances recently where that has occurred, where a councillor seeking to make a valid comment has been, it's been suggested to that councillor that they didn't have the right to speak. We can't have that in our council. So we do need, in my view, an overriding statement that just as if, for example, the mayor were to walk into any meeting, he's got status. He should have status. As any meeting of the kinds we're talking about, he should be able to walk in and make a comment because he's the mayor. In the same way, a councillor ought to be able to do that. Now, and it doesn't hold anything up. It just prevents the situation where people are excluded. Now, I don't know whether that's ever occurred. And if it has, I don't ask people to speak about that, but it would be quite undesirable if that occurred, in my view. So we have put some degree of formality to it. I don't see it being able to hurt at all. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, any? So we haven't got a motion that's been moved and seconded.
Mr. Mayor, I move a motion that the CEO be asked to prepare a report on the participation of councillors in all of the council advisory committee meetings. Advisory and steering committee meetings.
I'll second it.
Councillors, we've got a proposed motion up there, moved by Councillor Clifton, seconded by Councillor Cardew. Any more on this one, councillors? Does that
yeah, that's fine.
Does that look
there's
fine?
some policies there that are in place. There's standing orders in place. There's policies that govern the advisory committees in place. So we'll review those for any inconsistencies with what the council's speaking about, or to provide guidance around what council's speaking about.
Final call?
Oh, good.
Those in favour? Carry. So that brings us to item 16, confidential items. Councillor Hodge is moving that we go into confidential. Councillor Wilkes is seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Okay. Councillors, item 16.1, councillor remuneration. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Wilkes. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 16.2. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation with the one that's on the screen there. Councillor Hayden, moving. Seconder, Councillor Wills. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. And finally, 16.3, renewal of QFES lease with reception licence. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hodge and Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, councillors, there being no further business, the next meeting is Thursday, next OCM is Thursday the 24th of August. Meeting closed.